There's a war in Iraq, continued fighting in Afghanistan, and the current administration keeps beating the drum and tries to keep us all in a state of fear about terrorism. What can or should we do to reduce the threat of terrorism, both here in the U.S. and around the world?
The war in Iraq is an important question, and before I address your specific question, I first of all want to make sure that I point out, for those that don't know it, my son Christopher, my oldest son, served his country proudly. I'm very proud of my son's service in the United States Navy. I am happy to say that he is now safely back here with us. I also want to make sure that we put to rest a myth that Democrats don't care about the troops, that we're unpatriotic because we question the war. Nothing could be further from the truth. I've always considered myself a patriot. There's no question about that. And although I have argued with some in my own party, Mike, I do believe in a strong military. I do believe that we need to defend our borders. And I do believe that there are times we need to help our friends. And that may create a need to bring our military men and women overseas. I do not believe, and from day one I was against the war in Iraq. The war in Iraq was never about a war on terror, in my opinion. I'll get back to that in just a moment. But I want to talk a bit about Afghanistan, if I could. And you'd mentioned it in your narrative leading up to this question. We know that we've seen, in the last few months especially, an increase in insurgency in Afghanistan. We know that the poppy crop, which is grown for heroin, is now once again a very promising industry where we were told it would no longer be a viable industry. We see more warlords now coming into place. And part of that, Mike, is a cultural phenomenon because it's what they know. So this idea that we can infuse democracy or we can force democracy is questionable. Now, do I like democracy? Obviously I do. I'm very passionate about the democratic process. But I think democracy should be something that we invite people into, not force upon them. And so as we take a look at what's happening in Afghanistan, we take a look at what a devastating failure the U.S. policy has been with respect to our forcing democracy upon the people of Iraq, whether it's poll numbers, which you do or don't have to believe, that's of course totally up to you. But whether it's poll numbers or the reality or the correspondence that I have on a daily and weekly basis with our young men and women that serve in Iraq, I know one thing for sure. We are failing that country, and we are failing this country. At best estimates, we will spend, before this whole process is over in Iraq, over $1 trillion American taxpayer dollars. I'm not going to sit here and go through what we could have bought with that money here at home, because that's not what this is about. There's been some controversy over my position in Iraq. Mike, you and I have talked a lot, so let me just be crystal clear on this. I do believe we need to begin the process today of drawing down our troops and bringing our young men and women home as quickly as possible. But I also have a very humane side to me. And I think about those men and women and children that live in Iraq who, as no fault of their own, through this horrible, horrible airstrike we called shock and awe in March of 2003, devastated the infrastructure of an entire country, polluted rivers, polluted lakes, polluted waters, polluted land. The one commodity that we know they have in Iraq, and what someone suggests is the only thing we're there for, although I don't believe that entirely, is the oil. We can't even get that right. As we have outsourced, as a government, we've outsourced the work to try to rebuild that country. We're failing there. Contractors are being beheaded. Okay, it's not a very friendly business environment. I'm not trying to make light of that. But it does underscore the point that we have gone in and devastated an infrastructure of a company. They have no economy. They have no way to trade. They have no way to broker. No safe way anyway. So can we reasonably expect these folks to just instantaneously be able to take care of themselves? And this is where the controversy comes in. I do believe we need to get out, but I also believe we need to do it in a humane and responsible way. So as we train more Iraqi military, we need to take, and I suggested this yesterday, for every 2 Iraqi soldiers that are trained, let's send one of our young men or young women home. Now, according to our own government, we're training soldiers like crazy over there. If that's true, we should be sending them home half as crazy. How's that? But it's time we do something. I would like to see us out of there by July of 2007 completely. I am absolutely, positively for our troops. I support them, would do anything for them. But I think the most important thing we can do for them is bring them home in a responsible way. I hate what our government did to the people of Iraq, but I do believe we have a responsibility, to the best of our ability, to try to right what was wrong, but get out of there quickly.